how do I request a child support modification in Oklahoma? I'm also Attorney James Worth, and that is the question that we have received is how do I file or request a modification of child support? All right, so there's a couple different things here. If you're requesting a modification, that means an order is already in place. So I'd want to know, where was that order entered? Was it entered in an Oklahoma district court, your county court, or was it entered in a DHS administrative court, or perhaps it was entered in a tribal court? That's going to make some difference. The general information that you need here is if you want to modify child support, you have to file a motion to modify child support. In that motion, you have to note what the prior order was, when it was entered, and why it needs to be modified. What has changed? What circumstances have changed that makes it in the best interest of the child or makes it appropriate for the child support amount to be different? Typically, that would be party's income has gone up or down. Maybe somebody's not exercising their visitation, and visitation is a factor in the amount of child support because it's over 120 nights for the secondary parent. That would be a factor there. Maybe daycare costs have gone up, health insurance or out-of-pocket medical. There's any of these kinds of changes that affect caring for the child and the amount that it costs to care for the child, or is a factor related to the Oklahoma child support guidelines in determining child support. If there's been a substantial change there, then that could be a ground to modify. So you file a motion to modify with the court. If that's in a county district court, they charge a filing fee for that. That filing fee, I believe it is around $80, $90 at the current moment. So you've got to file that. And then you'd also want to file some sort of notice with that to serve on the other party that then tells them that they've got to file a response within 15 days. If DHS is an interested party, and then you've got to give notice to them as well. They're going to participate in that action, but it could also mean that your order previously was in DHS administrative court. If that's the case, you can file a modification there. And there's a couple ways you can do that. You can do that on your own by filing it, or you can request the DHS attorney do a modification. We get calls a lot of time from people that say, well, I filed a modification with DHS and nothing ever came from it, when in reality, they didn't file the modification with DHS. They requested that DHS file a modification, and DHS didn't ultimately do that. They get backlogged, takes them a long time to do things. You want to be careful about that scenario. You want to make sure that you're the one that files, that it's filed with the actual clerk, and that you've got a file stamped copy, because ultimately, if it's a year later and you don't have a new order yet, if that was actually filed, then your new order, once it is entered, can relate back and modify as of the date that you filed the request, the motion to modify. But if you just request that DHS files a motion to modify and they don't do so, well, then ultimately when it is filed, you don't get to go back to when you requested the DHS file. You get to go back to the date that something was actually filed with the administrative court or with the county court. So you want to be careful regarding that. So obviously these can be complicated processes as far as drafting up documents, knowing what court to file in, what court you can file in, which is generally going to be where the prior order was entered. So you're probably going to want to talk to an attorney before you do anything about that. To get that scheduled with somebody at my office, you can go online to makelawEasy.com.